We've learned now, especially after dealing with charcoal and going back to white paper, that trying to go and put in a background is a real pain in the butt. It was really nice to have like a dark background. So we're going to transition into using these tone papers right now. At first, we're going to use white Conte on black paper. This reverses the dynamic of how you have to think about the lighting. So you're starting from a dark substrate now, and then as you push harder, you're going to get brighter and brighter values. So you're going to start drawing softly. I don't want to say light anymore. Draw softly, and that's going to produce dark values. And then as you push harder and harder and harder, the values will get lighter. When you're working on these papers, the papers are pretty fragile, and if you do too much erasing, you're going to tear them up. If you do erase, use the kneadable erasers and tap at them to pull up the values. But what we want to do to avoid erasing is start to draw in areas of value now rather than line. I mean, we can still use some outline to start our sketch, but like this image here, you'll see that the values are blocked in more as areas of value, and any kind of contour line or outline just becomes part of that area of value. So you're drawing very softly, starting to create dark values, and then as you go, you'll brighten and tighten. So you'll see here like the edge of the arms left pretty poorly defined. It could change. It could get bigger or smaller depending on how the artist brightens or tightens. Then you'll find a focal area, which is like the area you're going to want to finish, and you'll go in there and create as much finish as you can. It's also really important now in this later part of the semester, I'm not expecting you to spend more than the allotted time on it. You know, if this is something that's going for 2 Zoom meetings worth, that would be like 2 classes worth, so it'd be about 5.5, 6 hours that I would expect on a drawing like this. So what you need to do is start to learn to use your time well. That means getting everything present and then a certain area finished. So you'll see like the face is present. There's face and hair, but it's not finished. It's loose and scribbly. The blankets aren't finished. They're present, but they're not finished. And then as we get into the central area of the breast and the arm here, there's a higher level of finish. So your first goal when you're doing this type of stuff is to get everything present. Get loose, scribbly, light, foggily defined edges everywhere, and then start brightening and tightening, and do that in passes. Brighten and tighten, brighten and tighten, brighten and tighten, and work out from an area that you want to be the focal point. Here's another image here. You'll see like how this just soft touch here creates these dark values, and then they push harder and harder to get the lights, and you're really able to get this like sfumato effect where things come out of the fog and the edges never need to be sharp. And then in here you use the sharpness to really pop something out. As we're doing this, we can take a closer look at this image. As we're doing this, don't forget about cross-hatching. You don't need to, like this drawing is actually using a bunch of lines. You don't need to use the lines, but you need to be thinking in terms of directional mark making still, so that you're creating maps of the volume. Every time you go back over with another layer, try and go in a different direction and slowly build up that weave of hatch marks, or that weave of volumetric marks. Remember, V squared, value and volume at the same time. Here's an example of a student's self-portrait. So remember, you should all be thinking about that by this point. He really liked this approach so much that he chose to do this white on black for his self-portrait. This is a fantastic example of how we should be working, where we don't have line anymore. We just see value because of where one value stops and another value starts. So we have black and then we have white, and the difference between the two creates the perception of an edge. We have white and a pretty light gray, and they just butt up against each other. We have a mid-gray against a dark, and they butt up against each other, and those create the values. That's what we're aiming for here. We should not have contour lines. We can have them like loosely there in the sketch phase, but they should eventually just get eaten up by the value. Now, when we're drawing these shiny objects that we're going to be doing for this assignment here, these objects like this, these are some past student drawings. The best advice I can give you for not freaking out about, oh my god, I don't know how to draw see-through shiny stuff, is just take these things shape by shape. So if I'm looking at this jar here, I can just break it down into like this shape, this shape, this shape, and this shape, and then focus within that shape on like, okay, I can handle this six-sided object here. I can handle this weird shoe shape here. Don't worry about this being or that thing reflected and distorted. Just get the shapes. It's like a bird shape and an eye shape. Another ellipse up there, a line. Once you've got all that basically in place, then you can start worrying about what it is and trying to give it a higher sense of realism. So that's the best advice I can give you with that.